I grew up working at a private club, and through college was a general manager at a beach club, and eventually went on to become president at the club I grew up at as a member.
Really?
At the same time that I was a kind of a technology executive outside of club life. So this has allowed me to sort of connect all of that history, really dating back till I was about 12 years old, in one place. And our passion is really connecting the dots and giving boards, committees, and management teams the true trends as to what's going on with members at the club. And it's tricky, and a lot of systems that are built for, say, retailers or other restaurants and resorts, they miss the uniqueness of a member and the fact that not all of their activity produces a transaction. So there are a lot of things that one does at a club that is simply part of their dues, and so what we've tried to do is give the GMs, controllers, and their teams a full view as to what's going on, and then once we do that, they also have this great ability to contrast different age groups, different membership categories, different genders, newer members versus tenured members, et cetera, to see if their programming, if their facility is really one, fully utilized, or two, catering to members in a way that is showing lots of engagement. And we think engagement is the key to sustainability and health for clubs. And depending on what segment they sit in, whether they're very exclusive or maybe just a tier below that, or on the other end, really struggling, having this type of data and this type of dashboard when communicating with boards and committees can be vital, because I really noticed as a club president that it was very easy to get off track and to really take some anecdotal arguments to the 9th and 10th degree. Takes a lot of time, could be a red herring, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we really tried to build this application that creates one version of the truth, automatically feeds data from your key systems into one place, and allows you to very simply, without needing to run reports or be a data scientist, to get an idea of the key trends that are happening at the club. So that is our objective. That's what we do. Really, we've had a very, very nice start in the industry. There's nothing else out there that's doing what we do. There are reporting platforms for some of the data, for some of the software providers, but there's really nothing that connects multiple software providers all in one place. And we know changing systems can be difficult, so we just really wanted to bring a solution that kind of sits on top of everything that the club already uses and may be happy with, and gives them very quality reporting.
Sounds good to us. So you'll know Gene has joined the meeting. That was Kevin speaking, and Sean is on another line somewhere else. Gene.
Hi, Hi Gene. Thank you.
Hi. Sorry I'm late.
No worries.
So the comment that you all have been working with various systems over the development of this product, how does TAI seem to work with what you've done? Have you had much experience with them?
We have implemented a TAI data feed for transactions, yes.
Okay.
So not to back up, talking about getting rid of systems and coming in, or you would just use what we currently have?
We always try to use what you currently have. The only time we would ever have a problem is if that vendor was generally obstinate in working with us, but that's really never happened. It is a threat, but a ton of the data would come from TAI, and like I said, we have successfully implemented taking all of the statement data out of TAI, associating with a member, and then providing dashboards based on that data.
Okay.
We have with probably between 7 and 10 different providers. So we really do want to be that provider that tries to work well with everyone so that the club does not have to change if they don't want to.
Or have to make an investment that would be, in some instances like ours, significant.
Oh, absolutely, and not just the cost, but the time too. Training and getting servers and the pro shop and every place else on board with a new POS system or accounting system can be difficult.
Okay.
Sean, if you want to flip it over to me, I'm happy to just jump into a demo, and maybe the best way give you an idea of how we work with clubs is just to start showing you some of the dashboards.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I'll change the presenter.
That sounds great.
Okay. Please let me know if you can see what looks like a dashboard for the club at Neptune Cove.
Looks good.
Okay. So this would be your typical landing page. Our system works very similar to applications like Salesforce and Workday, et cetera, where there's one login page for all of our clients. We know who they are based on who they log in, and we pull both the club's data and the permissions related to that user. So you as the club management has the ability, when we implement this, to restrict the type of data that some users see. And this is a completely SaaS program, all delivered through a web browser. There's no hardware. It actually is one of the first true applications in this industry to sit in the cloud. We're on the Amazon cloud. We've also deployed on the Microsoft cloud as well. But what I'm showing you today is sitting at AWS. So this would be kind of, I've logged in as a general manager in this case. These KPIs are customized per club, but I think the red, green, and yellow sort of speak, they speak to where you are versus the tolerances or the targets that we've set in the system for you. That would, again, all be sort of customized for you and for your club. The things that are important, we recommend, probably less than 7 and more than 3. I don't want to be looking at too many things, but it's kind of the fun part of the implementation when we go through what really matters to each user on a daily basis. So you'll notice those are the KPIs, but above them, you'll actually see where we're automatically feeding data into the system from, and the last occurrence or how fresh the data is. So you can see that the bulk of the data has come in today. Some of it is delayed because, say, for instance, in the membership area, it's just because there hasn't been a change in those 2 days to the membership roster. So we depending on who we're working with, we only pull that data when there is a change. But things like reservations, we try to pull in intraday, a couple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, whether that be dining, a tea time reservation, a court reservation, etc. All of our statement data is, or I should say our transaction data is post-close. So it's generally received the evening or in the middle of the night on the day that the transactions were posted.
Okay.
So again, pretty current when it comes to reporting. And as we scroll down, you'll see simple, we call these widgets or panels, but here's a list of all your membership types and the number of members in each membership category. Okay. We have the ability to build this meet or greet opportunity thing. This could be really anything. The birthday cake is obviously indicating a birthday for Mark A. Jim B is a board member, so it's just letting you know that Jim will be in the grill room at 12:30, and Mrs. Mark A would be in the grill room at 1:15. And we have some clubs that have also added to this list other significances. Sometimes members with a balance over $1,000, that's later than 120 days or something like that. It's basically a highlighted list of members based on a criteria that you set, so that when you log in the morning, you say, hey, I really would like to stop by and say happy birthday, or talk to this member about their bill or whatever. So we can actually build this list based on any criteria that we have in the system for you. Just overview data on tee times, dining covers, dining reservations, guest room occupancy, and then some metrics of yesterday and the day before yesterday at the point of sale terminal. These are all specific point of sale terminals. We have a little note section, so if there's a problem in the dining room at night and the person responsible for that shift wants to leave a little note for the GM or another staff member in the morning, they can just really log into the system, type a note, and it's there on your dashboard in the morning. But once we get by the...
Go back to that 1 second.
Go ahead.
Can you go back to that last piece?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So these are notes from appointed department heads to communicate with the GM.
Yes, just a quick note. It's really meant for a shift note, essentially.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And below that, you'll see the calendar. So this pulls right in from your website calendar, let you know everything that's going on campus today. Again, all of our feeds are automatic. We don't want clubs to have to enter data. We already know that in many cases they're entering it in multiple systems anyway. So that is one of the criteria for us, is that we don't take data manually. We only take it automatically.
Okay.
So what happens in the case that we do dining reservations manually?
So in that case, you won't have dining data until you implement some type of reservation system, either through the website or at the host stand, or both.
Okay.
The other thing you could do, Gene, on that part of it, even if you weren't taking, say, online reservations for your members, like if they weren't logging into your site and making them online, as long as your team is putting them into a system versus into a notebook, then you would be able to get the data in there. Make sense?
Yeah, totally makes sense. I don't know of any reservation system we have unless our POS system does that. And I don't think TAI does that.
Right. Well, we've always done them manually, and that doesn't mean we can't adjust. Yeah, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing for us for all the reasons we're discussing.
Yeah, we found actually that boards and committees tend to get around and get behind the idea of adding reservations, even if they're not member facing, if they're just on the admin side. One, it's a good way to keep track of what's going on at the club. And two, once they begin to see the reporting from it, they tend to really like it. So it's kind of a carrot that often enables, even for clubs that don't have tee times and want people to be able to come and go as they like and not have to make a reservation. It's really easy for the host or the pro shop, et cetera, to enter the foursome or enter the guest. It just gives you a better idea of what's going on at the club.
We do use the tee time through TAI. That's working just fine. I just don't know about a reservation that we would have for the dining part.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay, just tee times we use.
Okay. This list that I'm scrolling through right now is actually every member that's due at the club today and where they're going. So obviously these are a lot of tee times here, but there's some dining and performance center and guest room as well. So there is this whole, we put it at the bottom because we think that most people would want to necessarily go through everyone. And that's why we have that kind of highlighted members at the top. But if you really want to scroll through and see everyone that's there, you certainly could. Let me hop into some of our more, and generally how we do that, we're finding that most clubs like to look at membership categories. So I'll click on this golf membership category. And again, this is all delivered through the web, so it's responsive. That means it optimizes for an iPad or an iPhone or smaller devices. It might go from 3 columns across to 2 to 1, depending on what you're using. But at the top, it tells you what we're doing here. We're in the golf membership category. Our time frame is it's a 2-year time frame, so it's from January of last year. If we wanted to make it just this year, we'd simply select this year from this dropdown. But what we're looking at is the entire member list of golf members right here, and here is all the spending for golf members and what they spend on. All of these columns can be sorted from from highest to lowest, top to bottom, based on instance or average or total spending. But you're basically seeing all the sales categories for this membership type over 2 years. This is where all those members live, and if you click on the map, it drills down to counties and cities and even streets. So these are the point of sale locations. So that's looking at total spending at those point of sale terminals. These are members with spending group across time. So these are the golf members who are have the highest total spending over that time period, the number of transactions. And so if you obviously could reverse this and see, these are the members who have spent the least over that time frame. But it's basically all spending for golf over that last 2 seasons. We pull in every single category and every single item in your point of sale. So these are all of the point of sale items. So if we wanted to look at something like, this is a good one, the Christmas fund. One thing I want you to notice is you'll see the green bar above those 3 panels. When I click on Christmas fund, you'll see the widgets to the right also change and basically filter. And so now what we're looking at is these are the members in the golf category who have contributed to the Christmas fund and the amount that they have and when their transactions were. You can see the total spending, spending on Christmas fund over the last couple of years, the trend it's on. So it's and you could do that for any item. Irons, if the pro shop wanted to see which members are buying irons, just one click here, it refreshes all these panels, and you'll see that these are the members that are buying clubs, and this is the trend for clubs in the pro shop. It even predicts where it could end this year, and that's strictly based on a trend line, but it does have things like that. This is where we really start to get interesting. So we have total spending in the membership category, but we also have the ability to peel out discretional spending. And something that a lot of clubs are getting somewhat concerned about are the members that, for the most part are just paying their dues and not using the club. And this is a really interesting way to look at your top discretional spenders, or if you wanted to reverse it, these are your lowest discretional spenders over that period.
From target marketing, I think that's the more important category, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Can I
and when
just
we
back
get
up?
further in, sure.
So you're pulling all this data from our current systems. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and then are they based on what we would want to see, or is there a standard program, or?
They would customize this for us.
Okay.
We would tell them what we wanted to learn, and then you'd build the tools to draw what was necessary to come up with that information, as I understand it, correct?
That's correct. It sounded like I heard a beep on this end, so I wonder if Kevin lost a connection here. I will chat with him. But yes, you're correct, Sam. There are some kind of standard items that we would kind of use to start working with you to build some basic dashboards, and then from there you start jumping into some of the custom pieces. After you kind of get the, some clubs have an idea as to what type of dashboards they need, and other ones kind of need to start taking a look at a few of them, and then the light bulb goes off as to how can you combine these dashboards into one, and vice versa.
So is the not general purpose is what I'm trying to say, is what goes behind this is that Mr. Moore or the president of the club or whomever is not coming to us and asking us for a report for how many golf rounds were this, how many this were that, this, that it would all pull automatically and then it would just be there?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, so you may have something.
In lieu of me running 5 different reports or something?
This would make your life much better.
Exactly. So what we found is that, people are looking for these components and then having to pull, they may be something standard after you get going for a while, and then you're looking to pull these things from 5 different spots where we want to put it right in front of there, so that when you're in your board or your committee meeting, it kind of makes that conversation a little bit shorter because you're kind of getting people back on track, right?
Okay.
Let me, it looks like Kevin's screen's gone off. Give me 1 second here. I will text his cell phone, see if he is listed off of this.
We'll be right here.
Kevin's got his cell phone on there. All right. Oh, he said audio died. Hold on 1 second. There you go. I'm going to text this to him. Okay, looks like he's getting back in now.
Okay. This could save you all the trouble on that membership report.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Hi, welcome back.
Yeah, Kevin, as you were getting disconnected, Gene had a question about like customizing some of the dashboards, and I just mentioned that there will be kind of some standard ones that as you start to build these, but we also understand that there's we're showing you tons of different dashboards here. Ideally, people don't start off with this many, just because then you just don't know what to look at.
Right.
And then we start building
based
off of expectations that your board needs.
Right. We really start with the, it's one of those things that starts with the core things you need to see, and then over time evolves. Instead of being stuck kind of looking at a blank canvas, we give you quite a menu to choose from, knowing that each one can be, can also be altered. So it's really kind of a menu of choices.
To ask a question, like when you were talking about that Christmas fund one, was that showing you just $1 of what was coming in, or is that showing you everybody that's giving?
It actually
shows
the transactions. Those are the transactions that were posted over the 2-year period.
And therefore, if one wanted to drill down and see the names of the givers and the amounts, that could be done.
Oh yeah, I mean they're there actually. So let's get back to that example. I'll click on Christmas Fund. Those will. So these are the members here. So say I wanted to just look at this year instead of 2 years, which is what most people would probably do. I'm changing the time frame. That'll refresh the whole dashboard. And let's scroll down again here. Okay, so now we're looking at this year. Here's another one, Employee Day donations. So these are the members that contributed, the number of times they contributed. And if we wanted to sort it from bottom up, then these are the, obviously, it looks like everyone did contribute at least once, which means it probably was a mandatory charge of a certain amount, and then others could specify if they wanted to do more. So you essentially can do this for any item that's really any sales item that's in the system.
Okay.
But the Christmas fund, the Christmas fund, you could actually build. We'll get to campaigns a little later, but you could actually build a campaign that in a given year only emails the people who haven't given, and that just changes, each time you run the report based on payments that have posted. Yep.
Okay.
Sean, you were saying, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that this may be a little bit getting ahead, but you had kind of touched a little bit on campaigns, which you'll touch on in a minute. But even if you see all of these reports up here, you can, even when you're looking at them in the dashboard, you can still download them to Excel. Kevin will show you how to create. Kevin will show you how to create campaigns off of these as well. But there are some functionality pieces within each of the dashboards so that you can kind of, if you find something that you need to get out and manipulate it even further, you could.
That's a good point, Sean. Let me show that. So in every single one of these categories, you'll see these choices up here. So one is you can remove that, so you don't have to look at it anymore if it's something that's not interesting to you. For visualizations like this that are it's a graphic. You can actually always look at the raw data view too, and any of these can be downloaded to Excel with one click. So if I want to go back to the chart view, this is showing. This is actually something we've innovated. It shows membership transition within the golf category. So if I scroll over this, it shows that 13 members have gone from provisional to golf. 6 have gone from golf to senior. Mm-hmm. 1 has gone from golf to provisional, and that's what's happened this year at the club.
Okay.
So here are some somewhat interesting, accounts receivable data, dues and prior dues, aging, some aging charts. This club is in good shape. Obviously, we don't have anything over, it looks like, 2 months, and which is the case, to be honest, with most of our, the club clients that we've seen. So again, this might be something that's not that important because you just don't have a problem with AR. Let me get into some of the other dashboards that are somewhat interesting. If we wanted to look at lessons in spa, this is really some interesting data. So again, we're in the golf category, as you can see up here, and we're looking at the types of lessons that members are using. And interestingly enough, you'll see if I highlight 1 hour video here in the key, you'll see the 1 hour video lessons are by far the most popular. So that might speak to, potentially getting another video set up and hitting bay or on the range or something like that. It certainly, keeps you on top of the trends. Here are heat maps for when lessons and spa therapies are scheduled. You can even click down and see who's providing those lessons. Same thing with club fitting and things like that. On the tee sheet, we go a bit deeper. So these are T reservations by month. Here's the heat map of when people in the golf membership play, and obviously the darker green is the most popular. So it looks like set at this club 7 and 2 p.m.
So Kevin, sort of, I'm presuming that the graph upper left, we could overlay 2016 over that, or there's some way to do a comparison of the 2 years?
Yeah, so the time period we're in right now is just this year. If we wanted to go back further, then we could go to right here, January 1, 2016, and you'd actually see the trend month over month. So June in 16 is 1772. June, see, it's gone up quite a bit, 1772 to 1916. And if you wanted to quickly look at this right here, you could look at this by month.
Okay.
And if you wanted to provide that to your golf chairman, you could export it and with one click and email the Excel book.
Got it. Okay.
But this clearly sort of shows the trend.
Yeah. So we've got a group of board members who are voraciously hungry for any kind of detailed data I could give them on any aspect of the club. They've been asking for it for a while, and I've put together some things for various meetings that they are not satisfied by. So this, we would probably want to begin, assuming we could afford it, with a report on everything we do. Honestly, they're that hungry. It's fascinating to me. We would be able to generate an overview at a monthly end of month kind of thing as well, for a board meeting that would be not a cumulative, but a snapshot on the first, for example, of July that would show all of the activity in the month of July for a board meeting in sometime in August.
You can change the time periods for sure. Putting monthly in there, isn't a request I've had, but we certainly could. It just gets somewhat busy. But the one thing that we haven't, so I have all of the TIA transaction data, but we have never done a feed from TIA on the T sheet. In fact, I didn't even know that they had one. So I would have to research. Research that.
Okay.
Do you, Sam? Are you finding? You had mentioned that they, that the board members haven't been satisfied with the data that you're supplying them. Are you finding that it's more of a challenge to get the data out of the current systems that you have, or is it just that there's no information? Like on the dining components, it sounds like it's paper pencil. So is it more of you just don't have the data, or is the struggle getting the data out of the system that you have?
I'd say a little bit of both.
Because on the dining, we could give an overall picture of what lunch created, what dinner created. I couldn't tell you the 10 people that were sitting there for lunch.
Right.
But yes, I have a report that tells me what we did at lunch and what we did at dinner.
Okay. So since we're talking about dining, I just thought I'd click on the dining dashboard, and so this shows reservations versus covers for this is for obviously for 2 years, but these are all the dining reservations for let me see what time period we're in, for a 2-year period. These are all the spending items for this membership category. But as we scroll down, we really start to get kind of interesting with the dining by facility. So, grill room versus dining room versus terrace. A lot of clubs are beginning to really monitor formal dining versus less formal dining through this. But these are reservations. Covers we pull directly out of the point of sale system, so we'd have that data for you, even if we didn't have reservations. So the only thing you would be missing by not having reservations is knowing who is coming today or this week or whatever. But we certainly get a lot of dining data directly out of the point of sale system, generally because there's a charge for it. So, so I think the reporting, based on covers would be good, even if you didn't have reservations, which, I think you would want to know who's coming and who signed up for certain events and things like that, like Easter brunch, where you are, versus last year for signups for Easter brunch or for Thanksgiving or whatever. But we do get a lot of data through the actual chit as well.
Right. So we wouldn't necessarily know when the person had lunch, but we'd know what he spent and on the given day, as we do now. But this would just be a quicker way to get to it, if that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly right. And so what we're looking at here is last year, Terrace, for this club, there were 187 covers versus 300.
Okay.
Grill room is 60 versus 58. So, Terrace is really growing a lot. Grill room is staying about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Just basic metrics like that can be, may not be what a committee member would believe just based on their experience walking through the dining room, but it is nice to know that you have this data here. And I'll show you how we do it. It's not exactly how we would want to see clubs using the system, but I think it is good for you to get an idea of how the building blocks of the system. So if I just click on a member, basically we go to a profile that's built based on this member's activity. So we obviously have their information that comes directly out of the accounting system, their address, their member ID, their category, how long they've been a member, things like that. But we also have all of their spending over time. And we have the breakdown of their, what they generally spend. So this member over the course of their membership has spent 40% of their spending is just dues. And it looks like the next category is soda. So sometimes it's beer, but soda is the first time I've seen that one. But interestingly enough, we can compare this member to all the other members in the category or in the club really simply this is something that we created ourselves, and it just shows that for most recent visit, they're in the 69th percentile. For discretionary spending, they're in the 98th percentile, 95th for total spending, 32nd percentile for rounds. So this is a member that's, pretty fairly engaged. We even have a way to connect all of the dependents to the member. So if it's someone like me who has a couple of different club memberships and I generally don't use any of them, but I'm really happy if my family does, you'd see that my line would be very, a small circle, but there'd be a big blue circle out here. So you'd see that that I'm probably still a happy member because the club's being used. So these are things, that is just something that we really developed based on my experience. And because I kept showing up on all of the attrition reports, and I'm like, I'm not going to leave the club. So that's where we came up with the concept of bundling family members within a unit so that you could look at it that way.
Got it.
This is when this member plays golf. Based on month or day of the week. This is whether or not they walk or take a caddy. These are actually the members that they play with. The thicker the line, the more often they play with that member or guest. Whether or not they play in tournaments or they play open play. If they use the gym, who are they using it with? So they're using it with these two trainers. And then down here is spending for this member year over year. And that's by these spending groups, which are the spending groups that come out of your point of sale system. So again, while we are not we have not built the system so that you could look at individual members because we just don't think it moves the needle. I think it's important for everyone to understand all of the data that we have under a member. We then boil that up to their category, their gender, their age group, their tenure at the club, and we can literally group and see which membership category. And most clubs do this. They look at which membership category does the most dining or takes the most lessons or attends the most events, because maybe it's an opportunity to change those events or tournaments, et cetera, to get others involved if there is, indeed a utilization opportunity. So those are the types of sort of strategic decisions that can be made from this, as well as any investments on the campus. Is your performance center fully utilized based on these reservations? The same with your tee sheet. Is your practice area is the practice area for lessons again fully utilized? Do you need a couple more indoor, for some clubs, indoor hitting areas or places to provide tennis lessons or spa treatments, et cetera? So all of that stuff, you can really make those decisions. I just had a club the other day say that that they have a new pro, and he says they're totally swamped, and the courts have been booked, et cetera, and they just called me and said, can you just run the numbers for me and see? And I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. And I sent it back, and I said they're at 41%. The courts are 41% used, and these are the days and times that there's availability, and these are the times that aren't. But I'm sure that tennis pro feels 100% utilized. But clearly, they're not, and now they can sit down and talk to the GM and figure out why they're getting slammed during some peak times that make it feel like they're busy all the time. So it's just that type of insight that I think is unique to our system. And we really just try and pull the whole picture together for the GM, the CFO, and their committees and boards. I just want to show you one last thing on the campaigns, if I could. So these are things that you could think creatively about as to what would apply at your club. But we have some that we put together just to give you, thinking in the kind of thinking about things that could apply. But if we look here at dining prospects from reservations, this is one that we created where this is the number of tee days. So the number of days that this member's on the tee is 277, but they've only dined 74 times. So we look at that as a 73% dining opportunity. Now, in most places, we might throw out the top 10 because they're playing, an insane amount of golf. But we could get down here to members who are sort of in the middle and say, hey, this is someone who's, played 88 rounds, but has only dined with us 39 times. Do we have an opportunity to send that member a menu or an update of dining hours, or some clubs might send a promotion? But you literally can set up panels like this, and then with one click, send an email to that group of people that you think has that opportunity. So if it's all the members that have between 50% and 75% dining opportunity, you could just send them the new menu or the new hours or promotion.
And Sam and Gene, one quick question on that part of it too, with the email campaigns. One thing that I didn't have in the notes, Sam, from our original call, right? Because I know you're using a local provider for your web component. How are you blasting out emails to people? Was it the case where you guys were kind of lumping things into like just kind of like VCC fields through like Outlook, or are you using like MailChimp or anything like that?
Through Outlook, for something that is designed to go to everyone. We also send through Clubster things that are both, or rather all three. They can be posted, they can be pushed, or they can go as an email to everybody, whether they're on Clubster or not. assuming we have an email address for them. So, I mean, to have, when you put something like this together, are you typically drawing email addresses from web page or from, how would you go?
We generally get them from the website, and the template for the campaign is built in the website. So it would be through a MetricsFirst website or a Jonas website. We haven't done a third-party email system, but it's connected seamlessly to of course, to the MetricsFirst website. But there are workarounds. A little bit clumsy, but we do have workarounds for clubs that don't have the bulk email connected to their website.
Okay. I can't honestly answer the question as to whether or not it is connected to the website or if the information was just manually entered into the website when it was created independent of Outlook. Am I making any sense?
Yep. Yeah, and there could be, like Kevin was saying, there could be workarounds too. If let's just say that you're not using an email marketing engine that connects to it, you can always export that information and can most likely import it into those different systems.
That's what happens.
You know, in those areas. I mean, in some areas it will work a little bit more seamlessly, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done outside of it. Kevin, have you ever? I don't personally know of any of the clubs that have reached out to me on the Clubster end of it. Have you ever connected with them from pulling activity from Clubster? That may be something for way down the road, but I wasn't sure if that has come up in your conversation.
No, it hasn't yet. No.
Okay.
Predominantly, all the activities either come from the calendar or from the reservation systems.
Right. So, for example, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please.
Well, we'll take reservations electronically on Clubster, but we also still offer the opportunity to phone in and have somebody write it down and they log at the desk. Now, that doesn't mean we couldn't take those event reservations that come in by telephone and manually enter those onto Clubster so you've got all the info there. It's just another step.
Right. And I mean, Clubsters are fairly new applications, so my guess is that they've got ways to feed data in and out. So that'd be something that we could look into. Another thing that's interesting is a lot of clubs want to look at what attrition potentially looks like at their club, and so we've created this gallery of members that just haven't used or haven't spent at the club recently. And obviously, if there's a picture in the system, there's a picture here, but if there isn't, there isn't. But if I scroll over, you'll actually see why their risk score is high. So MRV is most recent visit. They're only in the 14th percentile. Upcoming visit, that means they don't have one because it says 100, so it means they're in the 0 percentile. And all of these types of metrics could be customized to your club. So you could tell us what you think attrition looks like, why you think members leave the club, etc. And we would customize that risk profile based on your club. So this is a really interesting, it's under campaigns, but this is a really interesting
community there.
So if we click to list, you'll actually see the list of all the members and what their risk score is, and you can one click over and be at their profile and see if they haven't done any spending recently. Another interesting campaign is a 50% more drop in total spending from the previous year. That could indicate an issue. So you can see this is sorted by, the biggest drop in spending, and we've got a 90% drop, we've got an 88% drop, we've got an 83% drop. Now this could be the member happens to be, on assignment in Europe or something like that. They're just not around. But again, something that you could very quickly go through and say, you know what, I haven't seen that member in a while, but there's no change in status. There's no, I should reach out and see what's going on there. So all of these things, once we have all the data in the system, are sort of indicators that we can help build for you. And you can just, I don't know if attrition is even an issue at your club, but it is at
an issue
several that we work with. Yeah, I think it is. For the most part, it's either attrition or engagement, and those are things that clubs are increasingly spending a lot of time trying to, create dashboards around, and this is one easy way to do it.
Excellent.
So, I think for the most part, I've shown you the bulk of the type of data that we have. We could go on for hours, but if you had any questions, I wanted to leave time for that and to get any of your feedback as well.
I would just simply say that this is exactly the kind of thing that I know my board is looking for, and there's a lot here that I could find very useful with department heads. So, we'd want you to consider us an interested potential client. I think probably for me, the question would be, what are the appropriate next steps, and what sort of an investment would I be making to get this product online?
Sure. So I would kind of ask Sean, to take the notes from this call today and to check into. We've established some gaps in systems, but I'd like Sean just to kind of to get together with him and talk through some of the gaps, and to some will be some I'll take the lead on to see if we can get that data in, and some he might be reaching back out to you to say, hey, you currently don't have this data in electronic form. These are your options for getting it that in that format, so that it can feed in automatically and things like that.
Right.
So those could be admin only reservation systems or other things. But our pricing is actually quite simple. We generally have an hourly rate for the install, but I can tell you that it's generally between $3,000 and $6,000. The fewer data sources that are brand new to us, the less expensive it is. So if we've worked with a vendor before, it tends to be much easier to pull that data in the second time. So generally between, I think it's safe in this case to assume $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in implementation fee, and then our licensing fees are $4,800 a year. So it's about $400 a month.
Okay.
It's an annual contract paid in advance. So it's that's our standard licensing fee, and that includes everything. Really everything you need. Everything's accessed through a browser, so you won't need any hardware or software.
So once we're set up, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one more thing to add maybe on that, Kevin, as a part of it. I mean, understanding that there may be some gaps and some information that we may need to automate coming in there. But typical from a implementation standpoint, 3, 6, 9 months. I mean, a lot of that's probably going to depend on the data that comes in, how clean it is, if we have to rearrange it. But, like from expectation standpoint on that end, what have you seen typical implementations take?
Yeah, it's around 3 months. I mean, working with the data the first time is probably a month, just without even reaching out to you. We get the data sets, and we have to kind of do the hard work to normalize it and then map it into categories that we think are, pertinent to clubs. But I think one thing to remember on this is that even if you move ahead with, electronic reservations, which I'd recommend, it clearly will be a year before you start seeing year-over-year data, but you have to start someplace, and that's just a fact. So we have a club that went live last June, and they were brand new on their point of sale, and a few of the reservation systems, and this, I should say, a year ago, June. And just this summer, they've had a lot of fun because they're actually comparing year over year on almost everything. So You can do that, for all your transactions already within TAI, et cetera, et cetera. It's just, you'll know, since you don't have a, kind of a rich history of electronic data on reservations, that, that'll take some time to build up naturally, but we certainly will have all the spending data, which I think is pretty valuable too.
Absolutely. Okay. I had it in my mind that this would be more expensive, so that's kind of refreshing to me.
Yeah, well, we've actually tried. That's been it. To answer that question, it could be, but we really believe that for the industry, that clubs will become a lot more sustainable. And a lot of the clubs that really need this data are, say, $3 to $5 million a year in revenue, not much of a net income, although it's, so we really wanted to make this affordable so that they could, in many cases, it doesn't apply to you, but run more like a business. And so we purposely kept the pricing at something that we thought was as affordable as it could be, because we think it would be good for the industry. So it's, as there's probably 30-40% of clubs that are just under a lot of financial pressure right now. So if this is a tool that could help them, I wouldn't want them to wish they had it. And so our goal is to get as many clubs as possible on the platform, because we think it will simplify their operations and most importantly, improve governance. I mean, if you can get your committees and your board and your management team all on the same page and kind of looking at the same data and building goals towards, based on that data, it could be a very great thing for the industry.
I think that is the whole point on this end. I think everybody knows that the membership marketplace is tight, and you want to do what you can to maximize usage by the people that you have. So any information they can provide you, they can let you know where you are missing opportunities or where you might have somebody, as you showed, on the risk list. We want to be able to target. And if somebody wants to make a forceful argument at the board level for putting in a new paddle court, have the data that says you've got two and only one of them is being used, is great.
Right. Exactly.
Not Same. Say, it wouldn't be just somebody's opinion that they're overutilized. It would be, in hard black and white or on an electronic screen anyway.
Absolutely. And just the idea that board conversations and committee conversations could be driven based a little bit more on fact than anecdotal stories, I think is excellent.
That would be great.
That was a pet peeve of mine as a club president. Just I felt like sometimes for some committees it was just whoever the loudest person in the room was driving the conversation. It wasn't necessary. It was just based on their experience, and they may not have a full picture of what's happening. So on a day-to-day basis. So
speaking from the other side of that, and with respect, as the general manager who's here many hours a week, I have been frustrated at times when I've made a statement that other stuff looks at me like, I don't think you're right. Can you prove it? I'd like to be able to prove it. And and you'll get to the point where you don't even have to make the statement anymore, because you'll actually say, okay, these are our trends month over month. Here are the actual number of rounds. Here are the actual number of dining covers. This is what we did last year, this week, and it turns to the point like you don't even have to make an assertion, because you're really just describing the data that's in front of them. Right. Well, we won't give them too many reasons to get rid of me, but thanks a lot, guys. I have one more question. I've got a couple of members of my board. One of them is on my executive committee. I'd kind of like to, I hate to put you through it again, but I think they would be really interested in having a look at this before we move further down the road. Is that something that we could set up? Okay. Well, Sean
could take the lead on that, and either he could do it or we could do it together.
Okay. Well, I'm comfortably in a position to help recommend it. I do have one last question. How many people are on this platform now? How many clubs?
Well, we've been invite only so far, and the reason for that is because we needed to have as many different systems as possible, and because Jonas has about 65% market share. If we left it to clubs that were interested in the platform, we'd end up with a lot of Jonas implementations and not enough of some of the smaller players. And so we're at 7 or 8 implemented, and we've got a backlog of 30 or so right now. Again, anytime we add someone with a new system, it takes a fair amount of time, and we are prioritizing those now. Because we want to be able to, when we talk to a club that's interested, we want to be able to say, oh yeah, we've actually worked with all those systems before. We know that it's going to be, a month and a half or 2 months, instead of, oftentimes we have to give them a question mark because some of these vendors we just haven't implemented with yet. So.
Okay. Last question. I'm sorry, I keep telling you it's my last question, but I'm curious, what homework did you do on Oz? Did you take some time to investigate Green Spring Valley Hunt Club to see if we'd be a good fit for what you're offering, or what have you heard from us?
Well,
in the
so one of the gaps that Sean and I had talked about before was the lack of electronic reservations, because it takes a lot of the one of the keys to the system is actually quantifying the unpaid engagement, and whether that's through the web, opening emails, reading newsletters, signing up for a class, or just using any of the facilities. And so that we knew was going to be kind of a gap for the club. We tend to not work with clubs that don't have electronic reservations because we just feel like they won't get as much out of the data. Most of the spending data, it may not be beautiful reporting within TAI, but most of that spending data you can get within that application. So there's not much of a gap there. But as far as the club, right number of members, we actually like seasonal clubs because their season's short, and so getting information as quick as possible is really important, versus say a year-round club. You're definitely a good fit. I'm just a little bit worried on the data side, whether we'd have enough history or enough automatic feeds coming in.
Okay, so therefore, to solve the reservation question, the electronic reservation question, reservations could still be coming in over the phone and entered manually into a computer, provide you the information that you would need. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So. Yeah. No. Absolutely. And that's how most of the dining is done at Baltusrol. To be honest, they have a very good best practice of.
Yeah.
Of having a member show up or call in, but the person at the host stand, is attuned to the fact that they enter the reservation in as the person walks in or as they leave. So
that's,
that type of thing.
Okay. Very good.
And then again, we might be able to get some, some good data from Clubster too, which that was to me something that again is interesting because we haven't done a Clubster club yet. So
right.
That certainly was a plus.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, because it was interesting with Clubster being more on the social media end of it, Sam. Like, Kevin, you may be able to show this, but like we pull things in from, some of the mainstream social media networks like Twitter and things like that.
Sure.
But so being able to, try to find a way to work with Clubster to pull in that social media data, who knows? I mean, that could be something where you're either going to identify, what members are saying about that on
right.
that social media network. So some of your gaps are actually kind of interesting components, which kind of are pieces of the puzzle that we try to identify in these beginning stages.
Okay.
Right. So this utilization page is what Sean mentioned, where we're actually pulling in all the tweets that the club is mentioned in, and we try to give a sentiment score. Green is good, red is bad, meaning they are potentially saying something bad. We don't have any red to show you here, but this is all your website statistics are here, where the people are logging into your website from, mobile app downloads, if we have that data. So I feel like we could pull some clubster data into this area as well. The website and the email issue is, Sean, I kind of put that on you. I feel like we definitely would need to, for the campaigns to work well or smoothly, we'd probably want to have a better setup on bulk email or newsletters or things like that.
Okay.
But I'll have Sean. Sean is an expert in that area where I'm not. We just haven't worked with a club that yet who had email separate from the website. Right.
Okay. Well, as I did confess, Sean, that is our stepchild. That's our weakest piece, and we'll this will be. I mean, we'll get better in lots of ways moving forward. So maybe this is an incentive to do that.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, thanks for your time today. I appreciate it, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, and same to you. And we'll look forward to talking more.
That sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks,
take care.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.